Hello, my beautiful people. It's me, Francisco, and this is the podcast that motivates you right on Monday morning so that you can overcome the challenges that life throws at you every day. Today, I'm going to talk about someone who's a reference for me. It wasn't always the case because, like the parable of the prodigal son, I also returned home after having eaten with the pigs, after not being a good son. We are at the time of the year when, in a few weeks, spring will arrive. Around the same time, we will celebrate Easter. Easter before Christ was meant to celebrate the liberation of the people of Israel from the clutches of the Pharaoh by Moses. So at this time of the year, it was custom among the Jewish people to sacrifice a lamb. In the Christian religion, Easter is celebrated to remember the death of Jesus, the death of the Lamb who came to save the world, as John the Baptist said. And it is him that we talk about today in this episode, Jesus Christ, my greatest beacon. I deeply believe that Jesus walked on this earth. I fully believe that he was also divine, so that God could teach us to love one another, to teach us what love is. The message is so impactful. The message is so powerful that it changed the course of humanity until today. It started with 12 people, and today we are over 2 billion people in the world who follow and spread his word. It didn't require social media, video cameras, or other devices common among us today for the message of love to reach the four corners of the world. In the example of the Sermon on the Mountain, where Jesus conveyed the teachings to be good Christians, there were about 2,000 people listening to him. How was it possible without a microphone? But you may be asking at this moment, what does this have to do with the theme of this podcast, David and Goliath? And I tell you, everything. It challenges every day to be better persons, to have the courage to face our ghosts, our giants, our challenge, our Goliath. A God who was man and who was here with us, showing how it should be done. I now will read you a poem titled A Lonely Life by James Francis, which describes, in a simple and powerful way, the impact of my master in this world. He never wrote a book, never held a prominent position, never had a family or home. He didn't attend college, never visited a big city, never strayed more than 300 kilometers from where he was born. He didn't do any of what typically accompanies power. He had no credentials, he was simply him. He was only 33 years old when public opinion turned against him. His friends fled, and one of them even denied him. He was handed over his enemies and endured the mockery of a trial. He was crucified between two thieves. At the same time as he was dying, his executioners argued over his clothes, the only possessions he had in this world. When he died, he was buried in a borrowed tomb by a merciful friend. More than 2,000 years have passed. He is now the central figure of our humanity. All the armies that have ever marched, all the fleets that have ever sailed, all the kings that have ever reigned, all of them combined did not influence the life of man as he did. He, for the most part, led a lonely life. Just as the Apostle Paul wrote, "Be imitators of me, as I am of Christ." This is the David and Goliath podcast, and I will tell you real stories from normal people who had great mighty wars and defeated their giants. How did Jesus end up here? Until I was 46 years old, I didn't give much importance of the life of Jesus and his legacy. To me, it was a bother because what I learned at the time in church never triggered my curiosity. Even during catechesis, when it came to Christmas time, and we were required to read about the birth of Jesus in the various Gospels of the Bible, I felt like something was off. There was something that didn't quite add up. Until past Christmas, when I listened to a Brazilian podcast called Primcast, I understood, comprehended, and it made sense to me, the birth of Jesus. So here's the thing. Joseph and Mary, pregnant with Jesus, were coming from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, Joseph's hometown. As Joseph worked in construction, and not a carpenter, as I was told when I was a young child, and there was a lot of construction in this city, Joseph decided to come with his family to live in Bethlehem. Joseph and pregnant Mary knocked on Joseph's family door, but they were not received in the best way. In other words, they were not welcome. At the time, the simpler or poorer houses only had one room, which was located on the upper part of the house. The houses were configured as follows. When we opened the main door of the house, we encountered something similar to a stable, where the animals that provide sustenance of the family were kept. On this same ground floor, there was a small room for storing tools. The family lived on the upper floor, accessed by a staircase. There was no kitchen, as we have on our homes today, and the place for preparing the cooking meals was outside, because the cooking was done with wood. In some houses, there was a guest room, a guest chamber. It served as a hostel for relatives who came from a journey and could spend the night in this part of the house. The guest room mentioned in the Bible. Since Joseph's family didn't want them nearby because he was going to have a child with a woman who didn't bring a good image to them, they were denied the guest room. Mary was about to give birth, so they decided to stay in the stable. Jesus was born among the animals and was placed in a manger made of stone that served to feed and give drink to the animals. It was not in a golden crib, but in a place where the animals sit. He was born in a place where animals live. The Almighty was born in the humblest and poorest place that could exist. The birth of Jesus, the Son of God, caught the attention of the shepherds, who at the time were considered as people not well seen by society, despised by it, and like Jesus, poorer as well. On the other hand, Jesus attracted the rich, the wise men, who came from the east to worship the child. The king was not born in a castle, but in a simple manger. He attracted those who were far away, those who were excluded, and passed by those who slept in the room above the stable. Simpler and humbler than this is impossible. The fact that he was born like this did not prevent him from being able to transform the history of humanity. Origins do not define the future of man. Like David, who was a shepherd, who no one noticed, with a huge heart like Jesus, he defeated and won the battle with Goliath, becoming the future king of Israel, leading the nation to great deeds. Do not consider his appearance of his height and weight, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Jesus came to earth to teach us to love one another without exception. He came to show us what love is. He gave great importance, attention, and care to those who were seen as impure. At that time, being part of a banquet meant fellowship. It was to sit at the table with friends and be at peace with God. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verses 25 to 32, Levi, the tax collector, who left everything and followed Jesus, offered a banquet to him and also to the sinners. Levi, who was a tax collector, was seen as a thief because he collected money from taxes imposed by the invaded empire, the Roman Empire. Therefore, he was greatly hated. Jesus was considering this thief and the sinners as a part of him, as a part of them, as his friends. This caused a lot of discomfort of the Pharisees, who considered themselves as people holding reason and morality. They did not mix with the outcasts of society. For them, eating with the outcasts participate in their condition. Jesus said to them that his mission was like of a doctor, who cares more for the sick ones than for the healthy ones. And this is why he goes after the sinners, mixes them to be able to win them over and save them. I'm not saying to save them, but could you do the same? Eat alongside a prostitute or a homeless person? Could you have any kind of friendship with them? Couldn't you? Why not? Do you feel repulsed? But aren't they our brothers? Why do we look down on them? When you pass by on the street, do you ignore them like we all do? It's difficult, isn't it? Our inner Goliath won't allow it. There's something inside us that holds us back. But why? Could it be that you give too much importance to what others might think? Is the smell of pudding? Do they not belong to your social class? Why do we ignore them? I consider this as a challenge, to be able to do this. In a little while, I will tell you about an episode of something that happened to me and was very challenging for me. I believe that only through love can we evolve in becoming better people. And only from here can we transform this world we live in into a better and more prosperous place for all of us. Jesus chose the worst of the worst to be his directed followers. Using the current guidelines of recruitment from a human resources department of any kind of company, maybe the only one who could have been his right-hand man was Judas, the one who betrayed him. The question I ask myself every day is, what can I do to become and more like him, like Jesus? I am like a child imitating the father, but the end result falls short of expectations. I fall down all the time. My legs become weak. I wish I could speak like him, but I fall for short. 5 to 6 times a week, I go for a run early in the morning. I love to watching the sunrise, and it gives me a different energy for the day ahead. I loved it so much that from the same spot, I take pictures of the sunrise and send to my group of friends and post them on social media. It's such a beautiful sight that I don't want my closest ones to meet such beauty, even when the weather is bad. On one of those days, after my run, and with my spirits high, I headed home. And as I reached the doorstep, I saw a woman on the ground. Since there are many drug addicts in that area, at the first glance it seems to be just another one. But upon closer inspection, I realized she didn't have that look. The lady was lying right at the door of a tavern next to the Funchal market. I even asked someone who was at the tavern door what was happening at their response was, "I don't know." I was tempted to go there, but I feel ashamed and changed direction. But suddenly I remembered the parable of the Good Samaritan. I swallowed my shame, gathered courage, and returned to my original path. I went to meet the woman lying on the ground. "Oh, ma'am, are you okay? Wake up!" I asked while shaking her. As soon as I said this, the lady turned on me, and it was clear that she was on drugs. Half in this world, half in a parallel dimension, she got up, swaying like a boat rocking on the stormy sea, and at the end head off. I even thought about going with her, but I soon realized it might not be a good idea. Well, I did what I thought was right. Could I have done better? Yes, maybe, but I don't know how. That's why I ask myself every day, how can I become more like Jesus? I know that because of this episode, I felt shame, and it's something that I struggle with, the fear of what others might say. I want to continue challenging myself every day. I want to fight my Goliath, which are envy, judgment, anger, fear, lies, so that I can be a better person and more like him. I know that Goliath can never defeat me. Don't forget that being a giant is a disadvantage both in mobility and action. The giants never win. I want to be like salt. Just like in the food, if it is too much, it will spoil the meal. If it is lacking, it will be bland. If it's just right, no one will notice, but it's there, making a difference. And pure salt never spoils. It's being that salt that I aspire to be here on earth. For me, at this moment in my life, winning means having 1,000 people become better human beings just by hearing my message. I also know that for this to happen, if I want to have different results in my life, I have to have the courage to behave differently. The same as Jesus had. The same courage that David had when facing the giant Goliath. I'll leave you with your message from Bishop Jakes about courage. May this message have the same impact on you as it did on me. Don't forget, never give up.
You got to have the courage. Do you have the courage to act outwardly on what you see inwardly? Or will you die a dreamer? Will you die on the verge and on the edge and in the land of coulda, woulda, and shoulda? Do you have the courage? I'm going to drop something on you. It takes courage to be successful. It is far easier not to be successful. Misery will always have company. Success breeds contempt. If you don't want to make waves, be mediocre. Be normal and fit in. And if you're more concerned about people than you are God, then neutralize everything he put in you. Just fit in with everybody else. Dress like them, walk like them, act like them, eat like them, go where they go, think like they think, do what they do. And once you've neutralized your uniqueness, you don't need courage. It takes courage to be different. It takes courage to go where you've never gone before. For some of you, it took courage to come to this conference. It takes courage to get you outside of the bar. It takes courage to be successful. It takes courage to win. People don't talk about people that don't win. If you win, they're going to talk about you. Do you have the courage to stand there though the storms keep raging and the people get to talking and you stand there and say, I've come too far to turn around? Do you have the courage? I'm going to say something to you. It takes courage to be exceptional. It takes courage to be wise. It takes courage to be rich. It takes courage to be educated. It takes courage to be knowledgeable. Because the moment you do, but you don't talk like, oh, you forgot where you came from. Look at you, it takes courage. And I'm just wondering, in this weak, watered down, mediocre society that we live in today, In this reality TV world we live in today, I'm wondering if there's anybody left that's got the courage to say, after all I've been through, and all my ancestors have been through, and all my parents have been through, I didn't come through all of that just to fit in with normalcy. I have the courage to go after my dream. Is there a woman left in this entire Coliseum